Welcome, everybody, to Remembering the Truth of Who We Are. I am your host, Jocelyn Mercado, and I am so excited today to welcome Yamile. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have you as a part of the event.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. So I'm going to go ahead and just introduce you to everybody who may not already be familiar with your work. So the very first time that a spirit guide physically appeared in Yamile's bedroom in October 2000, she was left with no choice but to start believing in a reality that isn't acknowledged by Western science. Ever since, she has been on a mission to learn as much about the unseen dimensions of the universe as possible, especially the myriad forms of conscious beings that inhabit it and their relationship to each other. Receiving more and more messages from spirit guides for other people made her realize that it's time to seriously work on developing her abilities and help people like you connect and consciously communicate with your own spirit guides. Wonderful. So I can't wait to get into this topic with you, the 7 kinds of spirit guides and how to consciously communicate with them. So could you begin by telling us what exactly is a spirit guide?
All right, I'm happy to answer that question. There are actually many different definitions out there. For example, most people that were in contact with psychics or mediums know this definition that comes from spiritualism, which would be that a spirit guide is a being that actually lived on Earth as a human being before, but left the karmic cycle and now helps us from the other side. Then there's also shamanism, which talks more about nature spirits, animal spirits, and these kinds of helpers that can also help us. But I have my own definition, which is any kind of being that lives in the higher realms, that is not incarnated anymore, and that wants to help us and is connected to us in unconditional love, is a spirit guide. So that would include angels, ancestor spirits, nature spirits like elves and fairies. Then we have ascended masters, and we have I forget them myself. Oh, star beings, of course, also known as aliens, but sometimes to people alien sounds a little like scary, and so I like to call them star beings because I also see them a little bit different than like just the grays that we see in scary movies. And then we have gods and goddesses, and yeah, angels. I already mentioned these. So any of these can be spirit guides for me because, like I said, a spirit guide is a being that wants to help us develop our spirit and even in day-to-day life, and comes from the higher realms.
Okay, beautiful. And so would you include power animals in that group too?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I forgot them. Yes, absolutely. Also known as totem animals. Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So can you share with us about your experiences? How did this all begin for you? And, how have your guides led you on this path?
Well, I think it was almost 18 years ago. Yeah, in the year 2000. I was lying in my bed, not thinking about anything. This was the same year that I got into like a little bit of shamanism, and was starting to read about it. So I had heard about spirit guides, but I thought, well, who am I? I don't have any spirit guides. That's just for like famous shamans from indigenous cultures. And so I lay in bed, I was sleeping. My boyfriend at the time was sleeping next to me. And in the middle of the night, must have been around 3 or 4, I woke up, and there was a man standing in my room, like in the doorway. And he was there like physical form, like someone had broken into my house and was standing there. And I noticed that I couldn't move. I had sleep paralysis. I didn't know what that was at the time, but I couldn't move. And so I just stared at him. And somehow I was scared, but at the same time I wasn't, which is really weird. And he was staring back at me, and I could see he wasn't wearing a shirt. He was wearing jeans, no shoes. He had short, dark hair, and he looked like he was indigenous and from South America. And that's all I could see. And then suddenly, he out of nowhere, he had this red glowing globe in his hand, and he threw it over to me, and I could feel it land on the bed right next to me. It really had an impact. And the next thing I know is that I woke up the next morning And without even thinking, my head went like to search for that red glowing globe, and I couldn't find it. And it was really an impactful experience, but that's not the end. I told my friend about it. I called her. I was like, oh my God, this is what happened. I don't know what that was. It was so weird. And both of us were scheduled to go on a shamanism workshop in Berlin, in Germany, I think 2 days later. And so we went, and I even remember in the train on the way there, we were still talking about it. And when we came there, the first thing we learned was how to travel to the spirit world and how to meet your spirit guide. I didn't think anything about it, but when our teacher told us how to do it, he said, okay, so this is what probably going to happen if you meet your spirit guide. They will give you some energy, and they usually do it by either giving you a big hug or by giving you like some form of like a red glowing ball that they put inside your heart. And I was like, what? So that's how I found out that the guy that was appearing in my bedroom at night was my spirit guide. And that's how I got started. And of course, then I was totally interested in it, and I started reading more about it. And mostly back then I was into shamanism. Nowadays, I also learn about spiritualism. Yeah, and that's how I got started.
Yeah, wow, that's a fascinating story. There's
Yeah.
like, it's so beautiful and mysterious when these things happen that you just there's no way of denying it. You know, it's
Yes,
just
exactly.
so
Yeah,
clear.
that was exactly what happened, and I think that was the purpose of it. He's never appeared like that anymore, but it was just for me to know this is real, this is out there, and my mind just had to deal with it.
Yeah,
There was no explaining it away or anything.
right. Yes, that's a huge paradigm shift to have to like
Yeah.
integrate, right?
Yes.
Um, and so how do you work with people now? What do you most typically get requests for, or how do you most typically work with people to help them connect with their spirit guides?
Well, what I learned over the last like 17 years is that I can see other people's guides. So sometimes I walk down the street and I could see someone transform into like a being, or I could sense the beings around them. And I never thought about it much. Somehow now I'm thinking like, of course I should have like known that's not normal. But back then I kind of thought, oh, maybe everyone sees that kind of thing. But so at some point I realized, okay, this is maybe not normal and I have to do something with it. This is kind of like a gift. And then this was like a few years ago, I started watching Monica the Medium, and I realized that even though I don't necessarily only talk to people who have passed over, but the process is the same. I realized that the kind of nervousness that mediums get when they have spirits around and how they communicate with them is the same way. So I started learning about mediumship, and nowadays, so I can basically do it on command, and so people can book a session with me, and I can see who their guide is, and I can give them messages from their guides.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit more about the 7 kinds of spirit guides?
Yes, of course. So we have angels, and most people know about angels. They usually show themselves in a traditional way with like big wings, but not always. Sometimes they look like normal human beings to us. And they can appear in physical form or just in your mind's eye. The same goes for ascended masters. Ascended masters are beings that used to be humans and left the karmic cycle and now help from the other side. We might know Jesus, Buddha, Mother Mary. Most of the saints are ascended masters. And of course, from other cultures, you have them as well. Then you have power animals, which are not they are not like your pets that passed, but they are the essence of, let's say, a wolf. So it's not a specific wolf; it's the essence of of all wolves. So that can be one of our guides. Then we have nature spirits, of course, elves, fairies, gnomes. These are awesome when you want to manifest or learn how to manifest, because they are connected to earth. They are great manifestors. You can often times realize that it's them because they sometimes hide things in your house. That is usually nature spirits. Then you have ancestor spirits, who are people that were actually family members that you might have known, or further back, so you might not know them at all. Then you have gods and goddesses. So yeah, any gods and goddesses that we know of all cultures. And it doesn't have to be someone of your own culture. It can be like a god or goddess from a totally different culture that's around you, and you've maybe never heard the name, but they are still around you. And then there are star beings or aliens. These are especially connected to people that are not from Earth, in the sense that they haven't lived a lot of lives here on Earth, or their first physical life wasn't here on Earth. These are called starseeds. So anyone who's like very interested in like the galactic history and in star beings, aliens, you're probably a star seed. And then you probably are connected to either Sirius, Orion, or the Pleiades, or Arcturus, or one of the other star systems. And each star system has their own traditions, and sometimes you can tell by looking at someone where they are from or to which star system they're connected, also by their character. And this is true for all 7 kinds, by the way, of 7 spirit guides. They work with us because we have a certain energy frequency that connects to theirs, because theirs is similar. So then when they see a human being that is similar to them in an energy frequency and that works on similar topics, then they come and will work with you. And also some spirit guides will be with you for your entire life, or even several lifetimes, and others will just come in, like pop into your life because you're working with a specific topic. Maybe you have a child that has problems, and like this spirit guide is very good with children, so then they come in and help you, and once it's once it's done, they leave again.
Okay, very, very interesting. I hadn't heard that specifically about if you're from the stars in this lifetime or in a recent lifetime, that your guides are likely to be
Yes.
star beings. That's very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they send people here to help with the ascension. They send people here to bring like the energies from the other star systems.
Yeah, very interesting. So for people listening, how can we figure out what kind of spirit guide we have?
Well, first of all, you can just look at your childhood and see if you remember any incidences that you had. Could be that you were in nature and you saw something, like maybe you saw an elf or a fairy. And it doesn't have to be like that you saw them objectively. Objectively means like outside of yourself, like I saw my spirit guide. It can't be that you just saw them with your third eye, so in your own mind. That doesn't mean that you made it up. So go back, remember these things from your childhood, or were you drawn to like books about fairies, or were you drawn to books about saints? There's lots of people that were very into religion as children. They had a favorite saint, for example. So go back to your childhood, remember the beings that you felt connected to, even though you didn't see them maybe, but maybe you like their stories, or you like to hear about them, these kinds of things. Then think about, did you have any invisible friends that you played with, that you knew? Maybe you had an invisible friend and later you found out that this was actually the spirit of someone who passed. Or did your grandmother visit you, or did you feel like your grandmother was around you as a child, even though she wasn't really alive anymore? So go back to your childhood. There you can find a lot of clues there. Then also look at your own character and personality. Are you someone who loves to go in nature and needs to go in nature to feel better? Then you probably have some nature spirits around. Are you someone who's really into technology and like internet stuff, social media? If you love this kind of stuff and you're good with tech, then you might be connected to star beings because they bring this technology to Earth. If you are, what else could it be? Let's say you are very much, oh, you love animals, of course, then you probably have an animal spirit around. If you love dogs over all animals, well, guess what? You're probably connected to a dog spirit. So just look at your own life and see what you feel drawn to, and it's really common sense, and to look at yourself and see where you are connected to, and then just draw the conclusion.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's so interesting that you recommend thinking back to our childhoods, because clearly at that time in childhood, we're so much more open to all that, you know, to other beings that might want to talk to us, or just to add to all different types of information that might come through.
Yeah, we don't think so much about it because no one has told us yet that this is like not true, this is not real, forget about it. So we are open to all of it, like you said.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It makes me think about my daughter. She's 7, and she had a dream recently that she had 2 friends that were animals. It was a porcupine and a little yellow ladybug, right? Like instead of red, it was yellow with black spots. And I told her, I remember as a kid, we did have like yellow and green and different color ladybugs. I never see them anymore. And we looked up a picture of it online and everything, you know, but I told her, I think these are your power animals. And she loved that idea. And she's like really, really stuck with that. And she draws pictures of them. It's so beautiful.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so interesting. And do you think that in your experience and in what you've seen in working with people, do you think that most children are having these kinds of experiences and either not talking about it either because they know grown-ups won't understand, or they just think it's normal and don't think they need to mention it? Or do you think that it's certain children?
No, I think all children have these kinds of experiences. We might forget about it and say like, oh, I didn't have that, but every child has that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, because we all have spirit guides. There's not one human being on this planet that doesn't have a spirit guide.
Right. So how can we connect with and consciously communicate with our spirit guides? What do you recommend?
Well, there's different ways. Spirit guides talk to us as loudly as we are willing to listen. That's number one. So you have to be willing to listen. Like I said earlier, you can't just say, oh, I imagined this. Because, and this is important to know, like our spirit guides use our imagination to talk to us. Spirit guides don't really have a physical form. They don't really have names as such, but because they know that we are human beings and we have limited like human brains that have a hard time connecting with energy frequencies, they will show themselves in physical forms, either objectively or again, like in our mind's eye. And so if you are willing to listen and if you are willing to be open even to your own imagination, then they can have a much easier time to talk to you. So that's number one. Then number two is like meditate every day if possible. It can be just 10 minutes, but meditate. And here's why. Because if we meditate, we connect with our own spirit, and only if we are really connected to our own spirit can we connect to other spirits. So if we are only stuck in our ego, we can't connect because we are on a different energy level. But if we are connected to our own spirit, it's easier for us. So meditation is really important. Then there's always, you have to ask them. Like if you don't ask them, they can't help you and they can't communicate with you because you have free will. They can't do anything against your free will. So every time you want their help, you have to ask. Every time you want to communicate with them, you have to ask. So that's also very important. And then there's what I teach my students also is we have like 6 clairs, which means we have 6 psychic senses, and you have to figure out which one of these psychic senses is your main clair, because then it's easier for you to see how your spirit guide communicates with you. Lots of us are stuck with the idea that we have to see them, but really that's just one clair. That's clairvoyance. Not everyone is clairvoyant, and if you if you try to see them, but you might be clairaudient, then you're just working against your own personality. So figure out what your main clair is. We have clairvoyance, which is seeing. Again, it can be objective outside of you or subjective inside your own mind. Then you have clairaudience, which is clear hearing. So you can hear voices. Some people, especially when they wake up in the morning or when they're falling asleep, hear someone calling their name. That's your spirit guide. So pay attention to these things. Again, it can sound like your own voice in your own head, but it says things that you didn't know before. Again, that's your spirit guide talking to you. Then we have clairsentience, which is clear feeling. This is the clair that most people actually have. So that means you connect to the spirit world through feeling, through your heart chakra, and also your solar plexus chakra. This could be like feeling a hand on your shoulder, or just feeling like wind coming by, but you're in a room where everything is closed. This could be your spirit guide. Also, you could feel suddenly like a wave of love, or a wave of like some other emotion that could also be your spirit guides. So if you're an empath, if you are someone who goes into a room and can feel other people's emotions, and you know that about yourself, you're clairsentient. So focus on your feelings to connect with your guides. Then there's clairgustance, which means like clear tasting. Some people have that. It's not very usual, but some people do. So maybe your grandma was like a really good cook, and suddenly, without thinking about her, you taste like the favorite dish she made for you. That's your grandma saying hi. Then you have clair scent, which is clear smelling. So again, maybe your grandma had a special perfume, or your grandpa always smoked a pipe, and you suddenly smell that. So that's your loved one saying, hey, I'm here, and saying hi. And then the last one is claircognizance, which is when you just know things. So for example, you look at someone and you just know that they they had a great day, or maybe you just know that they are sad, or maybe you just know that they just won the lottery. So and this is the hardest one, because for people who are claircognizant, they don't recognize where the information is coming from, and so they think it's normal that everyone knows these things, but it's not normal. And these are the ways that you can communicate with your guides.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for explaining those in more detail. I think in this whole, the topic of the overall event here, remembering the truth of who we are, I think this is so important, because we go through our days, and we're so hectic and rushed a lot of the time, so much to do, and we don't take the time to pay attention to these this information that's coming in, from in many different ways. So to really just pause, to do the meditative time every morning, or sometime every day if you can, and to also pause throughout the day to just see, like, what am I sensing? What am I feeling? What information is there? Because, I agree, we have these gifts, and different of those clairs, we have different ones to different levels, each individual. Yes. I'm so glad that you are talking about this, because it's so important to know that we have these abilities, and when we tune into them, there are great gifts available to us.
And everyone has them. Like I said earlier, everyone has a spirit guide, and everyone has like these psychic senses. Of course, some people have them more than others, but just like with dancing, everyone can dance. Maybe you're not going to be a professional dancer, but you can dance. So yeah, use your abilities, use your psychic gifts to connect with your spirit guides.
Yeah, and to know that these are part of who we are as human beings,
Yes. And also, if people are not sure what their main clair is, they can also look at like their hobbies. For example, if you're a painter, then you're probably clairvoyant, because you work with like colors and shapes. Same if you're an interior designer, or if you're just interested in these things. If you're someone who's totally into music, you might be clairaudient. So again, like, look at your own life, look at your own personality, your childhood, and you can probably figure out what it is.
Yeah. And what would you say for people who may be afraid to bring this up with others? Like you mentioned, when you had that first experience, you went and told your friend about it, and you obviously were comfortable doing that. But in some cases, I know people may have, you know, friends or family who would not be comfortable having these kinds of conversations. So what do you recommend for people if they're starting to sense experience these things, but don't know who to turn to?
Right. I would only discuss this, especially in the beginning, when you're not sure yourself, because we tend to, like we said earlier, explain it away and think like, oh, I just made that up. It was just a dream, or it was just my imagination. So only discuss this with people who will understand and don't judge you for it, or will even tell you like, oh, you're insane or whatever. Once you feel more comfortable with within yourself about these things, you can start talking to other people about it. But for now, I would like keep it protected, so you don't lose that connection. So yeah, talk to people that will understand. Find someone who understands. If you don't have anyone, go to Facebook. There are lots of Facebook groups that talk about these topics, and you can talk to other people there until you feel more sure about it yourself, I think.
Yeah.
And never get into like discussions with people who don't believe in it. It's just not worth it. You can't change their mind. They might change your mind, and you might get confused, which is not doesn't help you. And yeah, it just doesn't serve any purpose to get into big discussions about it.
Yeah, and it can bring negativity into that space that you don't want there.
Yes.
I know I've also found as a great resource for anybody who's looking for, if you don't have people in your friends and family, you're looking for somebody local. If you seek out like a holistic learning center or a holistic wellness center, you might be able to get connected to a healing practitioner there, or other people who, are open and understanding of, about these kinds of things.
Yes.
That may be helpful too. Okay, wonderful. Well, I know that you have a meditation that you wanted to share with the audience, so I welcome you to share that.
All right. So everyone get ready, get comfortable, and close your eyes. And then take one really deep breath all the way in. As deep as you can. And then let it go through your mouth. Don't worry if you make sounds, no one's going to hear you. And take another deep breath through your nose, all the way into your belly, and out through your mouth. And relax your jaw and your eyes and your face. And take one last deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And relax your entire body and let go of anything that has happened today so far. Just be here and now. And then I want you to imagine a cord that goes down from your root chakra into the earth. Let it grow all the way to the core of the earth. And once you've done that, once it's connected to the core of the earth, imagine that all your sorrows and all your negative thoughts travel down through that root going through your body all the way from your head, from your arms and your legs, through that root into the earth. Once you're done, cut that root and grow a new one. Again, all the way from your root chakra, all the way down to the core of the earth. And then breathe in the energy from the earth up into your root chakra. And circle that energy throughout your body. Awesome. Now I want you to focus on the chakra on the top of your head. I want you to imagine, visualize that it looks like an eye, and you want to open it a little bit. And now visualize a pillar of light that comes down from the center of the galaxy through your seventh chakra, your crown chakra, and into your body. Breathe it in, the light. Feel it fill the entire space of your body. And breathe in one more time. Awesome. Now you're connected to the earth and to the universe. And now we can get ready to feel our own essence, our own spirit. So focus on your third chakra, where your solar plexus is. Just focus on that area and feel the energy there. Maybe you feel it rotate, or maybe you just feel that it's like a warm spot. Don't have any expectations, just feel whatever it feels like. Now visualize that energy as a little ball, that's the energy ball that's inside your solar plexus, and make it grow with every breath that you take. Make it grow so it fills up your entire belly and your chest area. And then let it grow so it incorporates your arms and hands and shoulders. And then make it even bigger so that your entire body is inside the energy globe. And if you feel like it, you can make it even as big as the room you're sitting in. As long as you feel comfortable. But your entire body should definitely be inside of it. Now this energy field that you feel is really your aura. You can maybe feel that the energy inside of it is swirling around in different places. Whatever you feel, it's all good. Just keep feeling it. Once you're ready and can really feel that energy all around you, we're going to invite our spirit guides to come close, not inside our aura, but outside of it. Just send out the thought to your spirit guide. It doesn't matter if you know them or if you don't. Just talk to them inside your head. Ask them to come close to you. Don't worry if you can't feel them or hear them or anything. Just be really relaxed. Feel your own aura. If you're a little bit scared, you can just stay in this space and have your spirit guide be outside of your aura. That's totally fine. But if you're okay with it, you can ask your spirit guide to step into your aura. You can, just like we did just now, send out a thought and ask them to step into your aura. And now see if you can sense the difference in the energy around you. Did Did it change somehow? Can you feel a presence? Or is it just a slight change that you feel? Maybe you get warmer or colder, or you feel the tingling. If you feel something, if you feel a difference, that's awesome. If you don't worry. You can keep practicing this meditation for yourself. But if you do feel a difference, then we really want to know if this is really your spirit guide. So you ask them to step out of your aura again and see if you can feel the difference again. If your aura feels like it was before you asked them to step in, then you know that you're dealing with an intelligent being. To make sure, ask them to step into your aura again. Again, do you feel a difference? If so, then you now know that your spirit guide is close. And again, you don't have to know who they are, what their name is, or anything like that. If you get a little bit scared, just ask them to step out again and relax. Take a deep breath. Awesome. Now everyone, ask your spirit guide to step out of your aura again. And thank them for coming and letting you know that they are around. Now take a deep breath. And slowly come back into the space where you are. Start wiggling your fingers and your toes. Take another deep breath. Maybe stretch a little bit. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. No hurry.
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful.
Well, I hope you felt something. This is like a very good meditation when you want to get to know your spirit guide. Of course, you have to practice. It doesn't always happen when you do it the first time. But this is such a good meditation because then you know you're talking to an intelligent being because they react to what you ask of them. So if you feel a difference when they step into your aura and then you feel the difference again when they step out, you know, wow, something is happening. So yeah, then this is the first way to contact your spirit guide. And then when you keep practicing this, like I said, do 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day if you're ready to do that, and keep practicing this, and then you can start feeling like qualities about your spirit guide, if it's a human being or if it's an animal spirit. And you can also start getting information like names or what kind of clothes they wear or what kind of color fur they have or whatever it is.
Yeah, really beautiful. One thing that I felt very strongly in the meditation, and I just want to highlight for everybody, because I imagine many would have the same experience too, just to highlight this, is that we are so guided and protected, and so when we're feeling alone, when we're feeling lost, or we don't know, how to make a decision, or we don't know, how to handle something in our lives, that these guides are here to support
Yes.
us and to help us.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And also interesting that you just said you felt like guided. So that means that you had a clairsentient experience. You felt something. So if you do this meditation, the best thing is to right after sit down and write down what you experienced, what you saw, what you heard, what you felt, what you smelled. And then by just reading through it again, you can see what kind of words you used. If you use a lot of like I felt, I feel, then you're probably clairsentient. If you use a lot of words like I saw or I heard, like these are also clues to what kind of psychic sense is strongest with you. And then you can concentrate on that when you do the meditation next time and use that to communicate with your guide.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for all that you have shared. This has been really a pleasure talking with you. And I know you have a free gift that you would like to share with the audience of a spirit guide quiz. So I welcome you to say a few words about that.
So yeah, I have a spirit guide quiz that you can take, and it will tell you which of the 7 kinds of spirit guides you have. Of course, this is not a 100% like accurate, but I tried to make it as accurate as possible. And really, a lot of people tell me, "Oh yeah, that was totally right." So go take the quiz, find out which of the 7 spirit guides we have, and then you'll also get like mini course that tells you a little bit about how to communicate with your guide. And you can also come and come to one of my free readings, which I do about every few weeks. And I give free mini readings for everyone who comes.
Wonderful. Thank you. So for everybody who wants to go and take the quiz and also connect more with Yamile and her work, just scroll down a little bit below this interview. There will be a link that you can click on, and it will take you to access all of those things. Well, thank you again so much. It's been really, really wonderful. Are there any last final thought or words that you would want to share with our audience about this topic?
Yes, 2 things. I've mentioned them before, but they are so important. First of all, everyone has a spirit guide. I know that people are always a little insecure, like maybe I'm the only one who doesn't. No, everyone has a spirit guide. And the second thing, again, don't worry about using your imagination. They use your imagination to talk to you because they live in a dimension and we live in another dimension, and your imagination is what's in between. It's like the channel that makes it possible for you to communicate with them. So yeah, use your imagination. It's totally fine.
Yeah, and don't worry that you're making it all up in your head.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Imagination is how we connect with the divine.
Yes, that's it.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you again so very much. And I can't wait to share this with the event audience. So really, really appreciate your taking the time and sharing all of this with us.
Well, thank you again. I love talking about this topic.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, have a beautiful day.
Thank you, you too.